It might not be great news for the coaches, but it's great news for the Rams. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Join the party. Just went to 22,000 subscribers. So thanks to all the new viewers, new listeners out there. Also, podcast listeners, write us a review. We'll write it. It will read it on the show. Also, reminded too that Locked On is now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station. Just finished his 11th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, did the Rams catch a break as far as how their coaching staff is going to come together next season? Could they lose their offensive coordinator? Who will be the next special teams coordinator? And we're going to continue to unpack the 2025-2026 season, and we're going to look at some of the positional needs. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, Travis, so talked about it on yesterday's show. So we know Peter Schrager is locked in when it comes to the Rams. And the reason why we know that is Peter Schrager has mentioned Locked On Rams on shows multiple times. So big shout out to Peter Schrager. So everyone thinks he's so tapped in on the Rams. Maybe we're the reason why he's tapped in on the Rams. That's all I'm saying. But of course, what I really mean to tell you is he reported on ESPN that the Rams are heartbroken, that they're down bad, that they're not even ready to talk about the offseason and the next moves, the players, the coaches, the organization, because everyone felt that this was a Super Bowl winning team. And of course, they made it to the Final Four. They lose the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I can make it worse or I can make it better. Which one do you want me to do first?
Worse.
You don't get this close very often. And when you miss it and you're that close, it hurts even more, because I think anybody that's watched sports and especially has watched the NFL knows how quickly it can go from pretty darn good to, hey, this team isn't what it used to be. It can happen like that, right? And so when you get within 4 points of going back to the Super Bowl and you played something less than your best game in the most important moment, that's going to be absolutely devastating, because there are no guarantees that you're going to get back. So I think that's the part that is really lands heavy for the players. They know that. The coaching staff, they know that. And fans, they know that. I think the thing that makes you feel a little bit better, if you're really kind of looking at it, is this was not the season that the Rams went all in on this. This was a season where they were, certainly committed to winning, certainly went at it at a way that you would admire and respect. But this wasn't an F them picks era. This wasn't a, we don't care what happens next year. We are good. They didn't make a move at the deadline. They didn't fix the corner. They traded their first round draft pick. They drafted a player in the second round in Terrence Ferguson that was more of a developmental sort of pick, as opposed to somebody that would make an immediate impact. That they're continuing to keep their powder dry so they can go and fire all their bullets when it matters most. And they still got within 4 points of Super Bowl 60. So I think that's encouraging, that they still have a lot of cards to play at the table moving forward, and they're already really, really close. But I think, it's a classic example of both things can be true at the same time. It's a gut punch because it's really hard to get there, but this wasn't even them firing every bullet that they had.
Yeah, see, I picked the worst first and better later so I could feel good when it gets back to me. So I'm feeling good again. I was hurt at the beginning, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And look, that's the truth of the matter, is that most teams, when you make these big runs, these deep runs, it's difficult to get back. We know that are from experience in 2022, right? I mean, one of the worst title defenses ever. But I think when you laid out like you did, the Rams situation is pretty unique in that you had a hit on so much young talent that's still developing. You could have almost $75 million in cap space to go out there and sign players. You just got to make the right signings. We saw a couple years ago, guys like Jonah Jackson, things like that did not work out. So those are big ifs too. But with their track record, how they've drafted in the last few seasons, you got to feel pretty good about the prospects here. And then the number one biggest thing is you've got a head coach that's still hungry, that's passionate, that loves what Peter Schrager also says, that he feels like the Rams are his baby, right? And that's how he treats this thing. And he wants to win another Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. And he knows the time's running out from that standpoint.
Well, yeah. We'll talk about the Stafford thing in just one sec, because I think that's really important. But I love they are his baby. Think about what the Rams were pre-Sean McVay. They were lousy. They were boring. They were a team that just felt like they were they were the Tennessee Titans of the league, where, yeah, maybe once in a while they'll have a halfway decent season and they got some good players here and there, but no one takes them seriously. Nobody thought that they were going to be in the mix. No one thinks of them the way that you think of those, 8 or 10 teams in the league that every single season they're going to be good. Sean McVay shows up and changed everything. He changed everything. Like, the team went from one of 32 teams in the league to one of the teams that matters every year in the league. And it's directly connected to his arrival here. There's no coincidence. It's it's him, right? So I understand why he would take ownership of all of this, and he should. He deserves it. He and Les Snead both, and Kevin Demoff and the whole thing. Like, when they got together, that little group of guys took this to a whole nother level. Players get a ton of credit as well, obviously, but yeah, I can understand why this is just devastating for everybody, because he has created a standard like the Dodgers, like the Lakers, and they're hitting it at different levels at the moment, but you either win it or we're bummed out. There is no, hey, wow, what a try. Like, yeah, intellectually, but emotionally, there is no, hey, we're getting closer. It's, did you win the Super Bowl? Did you win the World Series? Did you win the NBA championship? And if the answer is no, it's, what happened? What went wrong? And that's a really high level to get to, and McVay's put the Rams on that level.
He has. And we, I think, are the biggest Sean McVay fans, but we also point out when we think he makes mistakes.
Sure.
They actually locked on, cut up a reel from our episode on Monday where we kind of presented the good, the bad, the ugly with Sean McVay during these playoffs. And it has 150,000 views, right? Because he's a person that elicits strong opinions, because so many people are big fans of his. But also, I think that to speak critically is okay of a coach, because I think my favorite thing about Sean McVay is if he makes a mistake, no one's more upset about than him. No fan can be more upset about something that he didn't do correctly than Sean McVay. I'll give you an example. Darvin Ham, right? If he made a mistake, it's defensive. It's, hey, I just please stay out of my business so I can keep this job and make this money. I don't want to get in trouble. Sean McVay is someone, he has a standard and an expectation of himself where I think he knows that he's on the trajectory to be an all-time great head coach. And when he feels like, from an execution standpoint, he's not living up to that, he's going to self-evaluate harder than anyone. That's something you have to love about McVay.
Yeah, no, look, first of all, I'm going to call you out for making up guys that coach the Lakers. Nobody named Darvin Ham ever coached the Lakers. That's just a made-up guy. That's like a PlayStation kind of thing that you just created a composite. So nice try. You're not getting that one past me. Number two is the reason it's okay to be critical of Sean McVay is Sean McVay is critical of Sean McVay. Sean McVay knows when he has made a strategic error, a tactical error, a preparation error. I think that if you could, give Sean McVay a lie detector test and say, should you have moved on from Chase Blackburn sooner? I think he knows the answer. I think we know the answer. And when we talk about this stuff, I don't feel bad about it, because I think we're both informed. I think we've both thought about what it is we're going to say. And you and I pay attention to this stuff the way that he pays attention to it. And he knows that some of the things he did in that Chicago Bears game were what is going on out there? He knows that nobody's going to make every right decision. That doesn't exist. Guys are going to make things, and especially in the heat of the moment, and he gets that. and he self-evaluates better than anyone else. So I wouldn't trade him for a single guy in the whole league. Not literally, there's not one other coach that you say you can just swap our guy for your guy, no problem, no strings attached. I wouldn't do it. I'd keep our guy for sure, but that doesn't mean he doesn't miss occasionally. He doesn't miss often, but he does miss occasionally.
Exactly. No, I mean, that is the thing with Sean McVay. If you gave me the opportunity to replace him with any head coach on planet Earth, I wouldn't have to think about it for 4 seconds. But imagine if I asked you in like 2015, if you could replace Jeff Fisher with any coach in the NFL. Think of how many coaches in the NFL you would replace him with. Bruce Arians, John Harbaugh. Then I'd probably take Rex Ryan, loving feet, over Jeff Fisher, right? I mean, like, think about it.
Maybe more than half the league. Yeah. No. It's just there's when you got one, and when you don't. And the Rams do now, and they didn't then, and it's as simple as all that.
Exactly. I definitely wouldn't take Chip Kelly over Jeff Fisher.
No, I don't think Chip's on the list. I wouldn't
take Chip Kelly. No doubt about it. But coming up next is a great lead into the next segment because we are talking coaches. I think the Rams caught a pretty big break this coaching cycle that could set them up for a really nice year next year to lead into another Super Bowl. Because guess what? It's a good reminder. The Super Bowl next season, it's at SoFi Stadium. We saw what happened the last time the Super Bowl was at SoFi Stadium. Will history repeat itself? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming, right? Between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your actually money goes each month, it's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That is where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, it monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It's just absolutely shocking when Rocket Money is going to show you what you're paying for, right? Those streaming subscriptions, you might have more than one to the same absolute streaming subscription, right? Happened to me, right? I had 2 Netflix. Go figure it out. So it's already saving people money. So let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals even faster. Here's how you do it. You join rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. rocketmoney.com/locked on. And you know what time of year it is, right? We're getting there, tax season, but it doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. Because with TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours, yes, hours, trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, you can go about your day, and you get updates right there in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is on top of things. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take your taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
And we're off running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a reminder to join the Locked On Rams Everydayers Club. Go to lockedonrams.supercast.com. It's $5 a month. You get access to ad-free audio. It's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You get an invite to the members-only Locked On Rams group chat. I know you guys love to talk down below. We get hundreds of comments every episode. Take those comments and bring it into the Discord. Then you can just go back and forth with each other. I'm chiming in there, and you're definitely going to love it. And you get also exclusive access to national bonus shows, a members-only Locked On merch store, a 60% off discount on additional Everyday Club member subscriptions. So it's definitely awesome. I mean, here's the thing. You can get if you get this one, you can go to the Locked On Dodgers one, get 60% off that. So if you're an LA sports fan or Lakers, Locked On Kings, Locked On USC, Locked On UCLA, I know the LA sports fans are rocking with us. All right, Travis, here in our second segment, we're talking Chris Shula because it felt like Chris Shula was going to get that job for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he did an interview. And of course, it's got to be tough for these guys. I mean, you're going into the biggest game of your lives, you're game planning 24/7. And then it's, here's a little hour window for the biggest interview of my life. And who knows how these things went. But I don't know if you caught a little bit of drama here. Well, there was a report that the Rams offensive coordinator did not interview well, and that the Pittsburgh radio station 93.7 The Fan said that he bombed the interview. And then Kevin Demoff, Rams president, he tweeted about it. He tweeted, in talking to the Steelers, there's no truth to this, but maybe rather than trying to build up your name by tearing someone else down, you should examine a process that has coaches having the biggest interviews of their jobs and their lives crammed into an hour the day before a playoff game. So first of all, Kevin Demoff from the top rope.
Yeah, no, he's right. You know, Kevin Demoff could not have hit the center of the bullseye more accurately than this. I'm going to put the did he or did he not interview poorly aside. I don't know. I wasn't in the room. Who knows? Maybe he killed it and it's total BS, or maybe he laid an egg. I don't know. It almost doesn't matter to me as far as the purpose of this conversation. I think Kevin Demoff is right that if you're going to be interviewing candidates to become your next head coach, there should be some sort of level environment, right? That if you were, and I think everybody understands, I'm making stuff up right now. But if you're coaching the Tennessee Titans and your season is over in week 4 and you've got nothing but to get ready to interview for your next big job and you've got all of this stuff, that's one set of environmental stressors. If you are going to the NFC Championship game and you've got to figure out how to stop Caleb Williams, you got to figure out how to stop, Sam Darnold and Kenneth Walker and JSN and all of these guys in the playoffs. And then, oh, by the way, if you got a spare hour and go over here and try to figure out the rest of your life, that's a totally different set of environmental stressors for that person than it was for the first. I'm not saying that he couldn't figure out a way to do both. I'm just saying it's not the same thing. You're not going to get a accurate representation of who either of these guys are unless you interview them under relatively similar circumstances. Did he blow the interview? I have no idea. I don't know. But what I do know is that he was being asked to perform in an environment that's totally different than other people were asked to perform in. And I think that's Demoff's point, and I think he's spot on.
And look, we don't know exactly how those things go down. It was a guy, Andrew Filipponi on 93.7. I actually appeared on that show. They wanted to talk to me about Chris Shula. They must have asked Travis Rogers, J.B. Long, DeMarco Farr, the janitor at SoFi Stadium, and none of them returned their calls, so they hit up your boy D-Mac.
Let the record reflect, I was never requested. Now, they may have gone through everyone else you mentioned. I don't know, but I never got the call.
No, or maybe I was at the top. Who knows, right? But yeah, so the point is that I actually reached out to this guy following this report, and he stands by it, and he thinks that the interview did not go well, right? So I mean, there's a difference between the interview didn't go well and he bombed. Right?
I agree.
He showed up like not prepared or whatever it may be. I think there's a very big difference between maybe it just wasn't a good fit for what they were looking for, what they were hoping to hear, and where Chris Shula's at in his career. And we know the Steelers, that's a top 5 job in the NFL. Like, there's no doubt about that. That's a historic franchise. They win titles. But I think for me, the ultimate defense of Chris Shula is the fact they ultimately went with Mike McCarthy. And it kind of lets you know, like, wait a second. With Mike McCarthy, right? And that kind of tells me something.
No. It's funny. I never thought of it like that. You're absolutely right. If that had they gone with another young defensive coordinator from another coaching tree that had developed a lot of positive coaches, the way that Sean McVay's have, that would be one of those. Ooh, he must have really kind of not done a very good job. Mike McCarthy was one of the most uninspiring hires I think you're going to see. It's a retread, dude. I'm not even trying to be funny. When you saw him at his press conference, dude, is he okay? Like he looked like he was going to sweat to death. It's January. It's like, dude, what is going on here? Like, that did not fill me with a ton of confidence. Now, maybe he'll go in there and kill it, but you've got a retread quarterback. You got a retread head coach. Like, the whole thing just looked bizarre. It looked very un-Steeler like you've talked about. They've had 3 coaches in like 60 years. It's what they do. Mike McCarthy is not making it 20 years in that job the way that Chuck Noll did, the way that Mike Tomlin did. I don't know how long Bill Cowher was there, but he was there a while and did a really good job. That's not what McCarthy's going to be. I think what may have happened, and I'm just guessing here, and I've only met Chris Shula once. I've only talked to Chris Shula one time and spent time with him one time. That because they kind of sort of look alike, because they both are about the same age, because they both are young and all of these things, I think people are expecting a Sean McVay to walk into the room. He's not. He's got a very different energy than Sean McVay does. Sean McVay comes into a room and the place is crackling with electricity. It's just who Sean McVay is. He just fills the room with energy and positivity and this dynamism that is specific to him. Chris Shula isn't like that. Chris Shula is far more circumspect. He's far more reserved. He's far more, he's got his foot on the brake a little bit. So it took me a minute. Doesn't mean he doesn't know football. It doesn't mean that he's not prepared for the job. But I think that charisma, for lack of a better word, that Sean McVay just has without even thinking about it, if that's what you're expecting from Chris Shula, it caught me by surprise because he's a far different personality than McVay.
Exactly. By the way, saying he looked like he was sweat to death is crazy. But yeah,
did you see him?
He wrote his hands together. I don't know if you saw there was a meme. It was like first look at Mike McCarthy as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it had Peter Griffin with the headset on the Steelers hat, and he was holding a Denny's menu. Like, I mean, it just, I don't know. There's also there was like, they always have those memes where it says like eliminated. When a team like. It's like, we might as well get this out of the way now. And it had Aaron Rodgers instead eliminated. And also the odds of Aaron Rodgers retiring like went up significantly. So, I mean, I'm with you. It's like, that's to me, like the big shock. And when I was on that show, I was like, hey, Scheelhaase has like the Sean McVay upside, not, and like there'll ever be a Sean McVay. But if you really want to roll the dice, and they've been an organization that rolls the dice, that's what was a big surprise, to get a retread, someone that's like, kind of safe. It's like his floor is kind of like, I guess, high-ish, but the ceiling is certainly not there. So I think that is more of an indictment on the Steelers than anything else. Now, the big positive is, yes, the Rams, they gave 31 points, and a lot of that had to do with that fumble, muff punt by Xavier Smith. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the secondary just did not have the personnel required to have a really, really good defense when it mattered most. But the Rams, they get some cohesion. They don't have to work in a new defensive coordinator, because you look at some of the other jobs that are available, they're closing up quick. The Rams offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, is the favorite to get the Cardinals job. He wasn't offered a contract yet. But if I'm the Rams and I know that Sean McVay is going to be calling the shots on offense, if I can pick my defensive coordinator and Chris Shula and keep that going, I think that's the move.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Our everydayers, this will be familiar to them. I think that arguably Sean McVay's greatest skill as a head coach is his ability to identify other coaching talent. That with all of the guys that have cycled in and out of that coaching staff, that the Rams really haven't missed a beat, despite Kevin O'Connell coming through and Raheem Morris coming through and Zach Taylor coming through and, Matt LaFleur coming through. And you can really just go down the list of all these different people that have come through. It just continues to chug along, and the Rams continue to have success. So I'm glad that Chris Shula will be back. I'm glad that they're going to have some continuity there. But I also have the utmost faith that no matter who is coming in and out, that Sean McVay is going to find somebody to replace him.
This is an awesome tweet. Check it out. See this? It's like a map with all these trees.
Yeah.
and it says the Mississippi River and its tributaries. And someone quote tweeted saying, "This will be the Sean McVay coaching tree if he coaches for 30 more years." Right? So, first of all, awesome tweet from Football Analysis. That's his name.
That's great.
And look at Coach Tomlin's coaching tree. There's like one branch. There's like a twig, right? And
look at Bill Belichick.
Forest.
Bill Belichick's coaching tree has Mike Vrabel. Okay, that's good. Don't get me. Mike Vrabel's a really good coach. The rest of those guys were bozos. You know, they did nothing really landed. And what McVay has done, put the winning for the Rams over there because they win. They've been in the mix just about every single year that he's been here. But his ability to put other coaches in positions to succeed is remarkable.
There will be no Charlie Weiss slander over here. That's all I'm going to say. But coming up next, who are the Rams interviewing for their next special teams coordinator job? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that can be. So when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. So stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates even faster, right? If you needed to hire somebody for this show, this is what I'd do. I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. So instead of struggling to get your post seen, Indeed helps your listing stand out and reach those quality candidates even faster. And according to Indeed data, according to sponsored job posted directly on Indeed, 90% more likely to report a hire than a non-sponsored job. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored credit job to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this pod. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. And there is nothing like being in an NBA arena, right? Super fun. The crowd, the energy, all those incredible moments. Getting tickets, though, that part has not been as simple. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with us, with the fans. So you just open up that Gametime app, you pick an upcoming NBA, and you can have your tickets locked within minutes. And you've heard me say this over and over again. All in pricing up front, no surprise fees at checkout, which I absolutely cannot stand. Everything is quick, everything is intuitive, and stress-free from start until finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis. So the Rams will not be bringing back special teams coordinator Ben Kotwika, a couple other assistants as well, but it's official. We knew that was most likely to be the case because the Rams had already set an interview up and requested an interview for Cleveland Browns special teams coordinator Bubba Ventrone, who's actually a safety in the league back in the early 2010s. So we knew this was going to happen. Now it's a formality, and it just kind of makes me feel pretty optimistic knowing what we talked about at the top of the show, which Rams are heartbroken. They're not thinking about the future, yet they know that this is such a priority that they have to act fast to get their guy.
It's really, gosh, Doug, I wish I had a better vocabulary. It is so disappointing, I guess is the word, that this was the problem all season long and they were never able to get it fixed, because it seems like if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a quarterback. You can't make a mediocre quarterback a great one. You can't make somebody into Puka Nacua who isn't Puka Nacua. There's just some talent that is irreplaceable. But it feels to me like special teams is something that you should at least be able to coach up to a level of mediocrity, be league average at this, and that the Rams really never were is so difficult to wrap my head around, because if they don't do what they do in Philadelphia, if they don't do what they do against San Francisco in week 5, that game last Sunday is at SoFi Stadium. That game last Sunday may go in a different direction. If they can figure out, if they don't do what they do in Seattle in that Thursday night game, that game is at SoFi Stadium. It's a totally, the special teams were as bad as they were all season long is inexplicable to me. And that it's arguably, to me, one of the biggest misses that McVay has had, that he let it go for as long as he did. And clearly there was a problem, because he eventually did fire Chase Blackburn. But that, after the San Francisco game, that needed to happen that day or the next day, because it had happened twice in a row against two teams that you were likely to see in the playoffs, and they just continued to struggle with it until Seattle happened. And look, they got to fix it. They got to go out there and do it. What did I said it in the last segment. I think Sean McVay is incredible at identifying other coaching talent. I think he will get this fixed. I think he knows how big of a missed opportunity last year was, and that it came down to the kicking game over and over and over again is a really tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's tough to kind of evaluate. I mean, special teams is so unique, right? It's like a guy kicks a ball, a guy punts a ball, but then also punt returner muffs a punt. It's like what can Ben Coach do to coach that? What can the special teams coordinator do to coach that? But someone's got to fall on the sword.
Well, just to go back to Xavier Smith doing what he did, he botched the first one. What you can do for the second one is not let him do it again, is take him out. Put Kyron Williams back there to just catch the darn thing. Put Devontae Adams back there. Just catch it. We're not asking you to run it back. We're not asking you to take a hit. Just catch the bleeping thing. And he did it a second time. I mean, they eventually pulled the plug on him. They didn't give him a chance to do it a third time. So why did we give him a chance to do it a second? It's too big of a game. You've had too many problems in this area. It's just deeply frustrating.
Exactly. I mean, people make mistakes, but I think too, just consistently, the special teams wasn't an advantage. And when you're looking to win a Super Bowl, you want to try to get advantage of the margins. The Rams averaged 9.3 yards per return. That was towards the bottom of the league. Right. I mean, look at Rashid Shaheed, what he did for the Seahawks against the 49ers. They don't have a guy that can do that. They had, Tutu Atwell. He has speed, right? You got $10 million per touchdown. Right. So it's like, it kind of makes you wonder. By the way, last thing and then you're going to get
what, by the way, I got to do it. It's like holding in a sneeze. I'm going to die if I don't get it out. What an incredible waste of money that was. Like they gave him 10. And by the way, this is not hindsight. This is not that they gave to everybody. Kind of went, why? They never used the man. And I'm not picking on Tutu. I'm picking on whoever's decision this was. This is $10 million on a player who never plays, who even when he does play, you never throw him the ball. And that he was inactive for the last 2 playoff games of the season when you had the holes that you had in your special teams. That was a huge miss by the Rams this season. Huge.
I have to know what pictures that Tutu Atwell has saved on his phone of like Sean McVay and Les Snead and Kevin Demoff or whatever. Crazy. But it's funny. I was trying not to say Tutu Atwell because I'm trying to, parse out this content for the offseason. I wanted to save it for the positional grades.
Yeah.
I was about to say it's pretty obvious what your grades would be. Last thing here, Travis. That was a long show, but Aaron Donald, he said on his podcast that he felt like, man, I wish if they would have let me out there in the fourth quarter, I would have gone out there. And most people would be like, oh, that pumps him up. That made me feel some type of way. I didn't like to hear that. Like it frustrated me. I'm like, dude, just play then. Yeah,
exactly. I had the same reaction you did. I'm like, all right, then play. I'm not saying that you could put him in the fourth quarter like you said, but I thought you were full, bro.
Yeah,
I thought that you were done and that you just didn't have the fire in your belly the way that you used to, that clearly you do. Dude, put on a helmet. Let's go out there and play a little bit. You're Aaron Blank and Donald. Let's see it again.
Yeah, I'm like going to go to his refrigerator, like make sure there's no food there, make sure all of his restaurants like won't like let him go there. I need him to be hungry again. Come back, AD. I mean, come on now. But that's your visit episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. You can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. You can check out him later today on his radio show, DeMarco and Travis, ESPN LA, 3 to 6 drive time. Go check that out. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.